And obviously,
Yeah.
I know you work in the field, and I know I know you're a huge supporter. A lot of the ladies at Waltham Overcoming would be happy to know is like you're a really huge supporter of me becoming a recovery coach.
Yeah.
You know, like
I'm so happy that worked out. Yeah.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure.
I know you were eager to get that going too. So
Yeah.
I'm happy it worked out.
So it looks like we're live. Now I just have to share it and we can kind of go from there. I just got to find it. Hello, happy Sunday, everybody. Sunday, we have our I guess, what should I call you? Our co-host, Richie?
Oh. Yeah, that's good. I'll take it. I've been called worse.
Right. Now, wait, why can't I find it to share it? I'm trying to figure out how to, it's not letting me do it from here. Hold on.
I'll share it too.
Okay. Tell me if you can find it, Richie, because then I can share it off of yours. I don't know why it's not popping up like it normally does for me. I want to tag you guys in it. Let's see. So I can read the mission statement in the meantime. Greater Waltham Recovery Solutions mission is to connect those with substance use disorder to recovery treatment services. Additionally, we offer scholarships to safe and effective sober living, educate the public through community outreach, and help veterans access premier quality treatment. Our organization embraces cultural diversity and is inclusive of every race, religion, sexual orientation, veteran status, socioeconomic background, disability, and age group. Perfect. Right?
Perfect. Yep. Good job, Jess.
Richie, did you find it?
I still can't find it, Jess.
I know. I don't know why I'm having a problem with that too.
There you are. I see us.
You see us?
Yep.
Okay. So we have Shannon White on tonight, and
Hi.
I'm very excited to learn more about your story and what you're doing now, and you know, because you seem to know everybody. You know really good people, and there's for that. Oh, and before I forget, so Dollars for Angels, I'm going to do my little spinny wheel thing, and what we're going to ask people is to donate the amount that comes up. So, and if you can't donate it, you know, even $1, and what this goes towards is so that we can scholarship people into sober living. And we've been doing a really good job about that. We've had some awesome donations, and we want to keep, what's the saying, Richie? We want to never say no.
We want to
never say no. So I will spin this. See, it's spinning. And then what number came up?
You look nice tonight, Jess, by the way.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, and Shannon, you look very
Thank you.
So the magic number is 10, and we will share the Venmo information as well. It's at Recovery Solutions. And we just ask if you're able to. We know it's the holidays, but if you can donate $10, that's all we're asking for. If you can donate more, if you can donate less, just to, you know, we can continue doing the services. So we're providing free recovery coaching. We're providing family consulting. The hopes of being able to scholarship a veteran into more reputable sober living or treatment, and just to be able to continue to give back. So hope I didn't miss anything. So recovery coaching, sober living, family consulting, just reach out to, getting people into treatment. How can I forget that? Mike has been doing an unbelievable job of, if someone reaches out to us for any level of care, we've been able to connect them into treatment. And this is all free services. So
that's awesome.
I think I got it all. So Richie, what do you want to introduce our guests a little bit more profound?
Woo! We got my sister here tonight. The lovely Shannon White. I've known her actually too many years. I wouldn't be able to go back, maybe 13, 15 years, maybe longer. She was actually a mentor of mine. She had a few more years than me initially coming into recovery, but was like a young person in recovery, like really doing it, like really having fun. Like we'd go out with like Jamie. I don't know if you remember.
Oh,
Jamie
yeah.
Winthrop. We'd go out for,
I call him Snuffy.
Snuffy, yeah, we'd go
Yep.
out and I really learned from watching Shannon have fun in recovery, what it was really like to have fun in recovery. And if you know Shannon White, you know she knows how to have fun, too. And she was somebody that I was really excited to interview with co-host with Jess with, just because I have a lot of, like, you're a very interesting person and you have a lot of interesting stuff going on, and you do a lot of things.
Thank you.
And I will. Oh, Jess, if you don't have anything, I'll open it up. If you want to say,
I'm getting interrupted already. I just go downstairs and finish washing your hands. We actually already have some comments. So Olga Anna Gomez said, "Hi guys." Hi Olga, thank you for always tuning in, and we hope we can provide you with some hope and inspiration and just to help you get through. Debbie said, "No flirting on the show." I didn't know there was. It was nice when she said we look nice tonight. I've been running around like a crazy person all day, so that I appreciate the compliment. And Tobin Brown said, "What up, Richie?"
Oh, that's my guy. Both love.
So that's what I'll kind of do when I get comments. I'll kind of find a spot to interrupt you as politely as possible.
Yeah.
Right. So awesome. Shannon, the one thing I do know about you is I know you like to talk about the city where you're from. Would you do us a favor and just tell us a little bit about where you're from and what it was like growing up?
So when you introduced me, you said everybody knows Shannon White, and I don't think everybody knows Shannon White. And I always joke around with my husband because that's my married name. And I say to him, everybody doesn't know me as Shannon White, but they know you as Shannon Lundine's husband, because Lundine's my maiden name. So, I'm born and bred, grew up in Charlestown my whole entire life. We call it God's country. Charlestown's 1 square mile. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows everybody's business. It's like it's a blessing and a curse. But one thing I can say about Charlestown is that when tragedy strikes, we come together like no other, like nothing I've ever seen before. We carry each other's burdens, even when we're enemies. We'll put it aside for that time being to just help our fellow townies out, But growing up here, Charlestown had a huge drug problem ever since I can remember, and like hanging on the corner, even the girls, you had to have like that kill or be killed attitude, and you couldn't show like any weakness or emotion. And you coped with life by drinking and getting high. And I think a lot of us thought it was a phase and not realizing like it was like a generational, I use the word curse sometimes. It was like a generational thing, but I thought it was just a phase that I was going through, hanging on the corner, like drinking and drugging. And I didn't think it would lead me to the places that it led me to. But I'm grateful that I'm recovering and working in the community that like I ran around in and got high in and that I overdosed in. And now I'm here, giving back what was freely given to me, and I get paid for it sometimes.
Amen. Amen. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got in? What was the road? What was it like getting into recovery?
You're so good, Richie.
All right. So there's not a drug I haven't done. The only thing that I've never done in my life, and this is going to sound weird, is I've never smoked a cigarette. But I've never smoked a cigarette. I've shot heroin. I've smoked coke. I smoked angel dust. I've done ecstasy. I've done liquid G, like all that craziness. And I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. Like, and even people who don't smoke, they'll smoke socially, like when they're drinking. It's so weird. It's so weird. I know. So
I cannot believe that. Like blows my mind out.
I know, it's so weird. It's so weird. And so I mean, I had my first drink at the age of 12, and it was like up at the schoolyard, and I was at that awkward age, and I always felt like not good enough, and I felt ugly, and I felt stupid, and just whatever. So I just remember my first drink was coffee brandy, and like I loved how it made me feel. Like I thought I was funny, and I was flirting with the boys, and like even though I hated the taste of it, I couldn't wait to do it again. And you know how it goes. It progressed to like the marijuana, to like the Klonopins, to the perks, the Vicodins. Cocaine was my drug of choice for the longest time. And what I loved about that was that I could drink more. It was like a truth serum, and I could tell you how I really felt about you. And it like killed my appetite. And so, then the whole Oxycontin came on the scene, and like I'd be up for days and nights doing cocaine. And then I started sniffing OCs to come down. I'm like, what am I doing cocaine for? I like these way better. And you know where it goes from there. Like an OC, you need an OC habit is very, very expensive.
Yeah.
And I was always that, like many others said, oh, well, I'm never going to do heroin. I just sniff OCs, like y'all shooting OCs. I'm not as bad as you. And then like, then I'm, sniffing heroin and y'all shooting heroin, but I'm not as bad as you yet. And then, before I know it, I have a needle in my arm, and that's something like I thought I would never do. I have overdosed multiple times. I was in and out of different detoxes. I would only go to Somerville detox because that was my favorite detox. And I always say this, like, who the fuck wants to have a favorite detox? Like that was my goal in life. Do you know what I mean? Like I'll go to detox only if I can go to Somerville detox. And it's like, that's all, that's what the goal was, to go to Somerville detox. And, I went to a few different 30-day programs. I was in a wet shelter called, in the Access program, which is out of the Albany Street shelter in Cambridge. So there was a portion of that shelter that was for the people that were in the Access program. Oh my God. I remember when I first walked in there, I was 22 years old. It smelled like feet, ass, and piss. And I was like crying, like, what the hell? Where am I? And then I started hanging out with people, playing cards, like the homeless people but I was homeless too, but, playing cards, joking around. And like the lady that ran the program at the time, she said, Shannon, you're 22 years old. You have a daughter. If you're comfortable with being in a wet shelter, that should be a red flag that something's wrong. And that just didn't even hit me until like a few years later. So after being in and out of detox and different programs, multiple times, I ended up landing at the Meridian House. So anybody who knows anything about the Meridian House, it's a TC, which stands for Therapeutic Community. It's based on behavior modification. It's changed a lot over the years. I was there in 2004, but back then it was still really, really strict. And so
Can I ask you a quick?
Yep.
Can I ask you? So this was something we kind of talked about before when it was just the two of us. And I was just thinking about, so we both, you had your first daughter when you were 20, right?
Yep.
How do you think that how did your disease work in that way? Because I know with me, right after I had my son, is when it got fueled. And being a young mom, sometimes a single parent, how did it kind of affect that? 20 years old, it's hard to have a baby.
So it wasn't until like after her, until I really got like into the opiates and stuff. Before her, I was out drinking a lot and doing like a lot of cocaine and like pills and stuff like that. But I remember like when I got pregnant with her, I like really believed like I have something to live for and wake up for every day now. So this is going to fix everything and everything's going to like be all better. I really, really believed that. And, and then I had her, and I was into the OCs more, and before I knew it, I was into the heroin, doing the heroin.
I did the same thing, so I completely.
I remember like sleeping all day, like I'd be up all night partying, and like she would be upstairs, like in her room, and like I'm like, oh, just praying she didn't wake up. And then when she woke up the next day, all she wanted to do was play, and I would just put her in front of the TV with a dry bowl of Cheerios, and just like praying she'd let me sleep. And I think about that all the time, and I like even get emotional over it, as she was just like this innocent little girl that wanted to get up and go outside and play, and I just wanted to sleep all day,
I get it.
Yeah. But when I I went to the Meridian House, and the only reason I went to the Meridian House was because it was temporarily in Charlestown, God's country. So and there was boys there. And so in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to go to this program. I'm going to get my mother off my back. I'm going to get the PO off my back. And then I don't know, I'll probably go back to doing what I was doing. I went there. I started hearing people saying, oh, I've been here for 6 months. I've been here for 9 months. I'm like, wait a minute, how long is this place? They're like 9 to 12 months. I'm like, oh, I'm only here for like 30 days. Yeah. Like, no, yeah, I'm only here for like 30 days. And then I ended up getting stipulated out of Charlestown court. And so like the judge at the time, his name was Judge Sullivan. And I remember him like screaming, yelling at me when I got stipulated. He goes, I better never, ever see you in this courtroom again. And I'm like, oh my God. So I went to the Meridian House, and I was constantly in trouble. They called me their most challenging client. I remember I heard a staff member and a resident talking, and the resident said, I give her 3 weeks. And so when I heard that, like that, when someone tells me I can't do something, that fuels me. And so even though I continued to get in trouble over and over again, I stuck it out because I needed to prove those people wrong. So like what got me through for a little while was spite. And then what happened is I remember someone said something to me, and this was like something that still sticks with me today. It just like struck me so hard. And they said, Shannon, would you die for your daughter? I'm like, of course I would, you know, because you think like I'm this tough townie girl or whatever. And they said, well, why don't you live for her? And like, and I know they say,
chills. I just got chills.
I know. And I know, like they say, like, you know, the disease of addiction is more powerful than the love of your children. And you can't do it for anybody but yourself. But I didn't care about myself enough. I didn't. Like, I used the love that I have for my daughter to motivate me to get through. And then, you know, I realized I'm no good to anybody else unless I take care of myself first. And like, I remember when I got 90 days, I was like, holy shit, I have 90 days. Like, I just couldn't even grasp that. And now, like, even looking back, so I got sober, I got clean, sober, whatever you want to call it, in recovery at 25. And like, so I've been in recovery for 16 years. And I know what a gift that is, because it's never too late to get sober, and you're never too old to get clean and sober or get in recovery. I know people say different things. But wow, like what a gift that I got it at 25, and I was able to like, I feel like I got a do-over, and my daughter was 4 going on 5, and she's in my.
I have a couple of comments. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I don't care.
Sorry, so Olga Anna Gomez said, you guys have been, between going to the Bridge Club and being a part of this group, has really been helping me. I'm glad I spent my birthday clean and sober. It was this past Friday.
Oh, happy birthday, Olga.
That's awesome. You know, if we can help anyone, you know, it's incredible. Alonzo Duke said, hey guys, you know, I had to chime in for this amazing lady. Hi, Shannon.
Hi, Alonzo.
So me and Alonzo met in Detox. And so it's so funny. So you know Alonzo.
I do. He used to come up my office and see me when he was in Charlestown. He used to come up and see me and visit me. Yep.
What a small world. Rob Demio said, just Richie, Shannon, and Hearts. So hi, Rob.
Who was that? Rob G?
Rob Demio.
Oh, hi, Rob.
Tara Shannon said, Shannon, you're a trailblazer. I love you.
I love you, Tara. Thank you. That was so nice.
And I think that's it for comments, but we have a lot of viewers, like a lot. So anyone that wants to comment and chime in, I mean, Shannon's doing, you know, she's incredible. I've never met her, only virtually. So
remind them about the wheel.
Oh, the wheel, right? Thank you. So Dollars for Angels. We spun the magic wheel and it landed on the number 10. So if you can, anyone watching can donate $10. The Venmo is at Recovery Solutions. And this will go to continuing to scholarship people into reputable, good, sober living. Because our motto is what, Richie?
We don't want to ever say no to anybody.
Woo! Amen. Amen.
So that if anyone watching can donate, you know, $10. We know it's Christmas time, but there are still people that need. It never stops. You know, it never. Christmas time doesn't make it not someone needing help.
Addiction doesn't take a holiday.
It does not.
Or a vacation, that's for sure.
Can I switch gears for a second with you, Shannon? Just because you are a very
switch them.
Like, yeah, like Shannon's very, like, she answered like a lot of my questions because she's just very articulate and a great speaker, very powerful woman. So I want to just shift gears a little bit, and I wanted to just talk about how you can. So we have one part. This is a huge foundation, like how you got to recovery. What I would like to just talk to you about a little bit, or have you talk to me about is just how you came to have a relationship with God, as you know, as a Christian, as because this is an area I also look up to Shannon, and she was also mentoring me in relationship with higher power and talking about a higher power. And these aren't things necessarily that in Bellingham Square in Chelsea we were talking about so much. We weren't talking about getting on our hands and knees and praying and hugging and, you know, how do we turn things over to God. And, you know, Shannon was talking a lot about this stuff, you know, in recovery. And then I was also seeing her do something also with her, I don't want to say religion, but you can clean it up a little bit, but with her belief, with her higher power. And I watched her, and I also incidentally took the same path with Rob G, maybe a short while after meeting Shannon, like maybe a year, and I did the same. You know, I went through the same. I don't want to tell too much of it, but can you explain it a little bit, Shannon?
So Rob G worked at the Meridian House when I was a resident there. And I'll never forget that. We always prayed before we took off in the van. We always prayed before we ate. And, you know, I've always been God conscious. I just didn't know him as well as I do now until I got into recovery. Like I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school. For me, like I'll never forget, like my mother worked in the rectory to send our kids to Catholic school because growing up here, that's what she thought she had to do. She was a single mother on welfare. You know, I got to send my kids to Catholic school, and like the Catholic school I went to, and I'm not saying this is true for everyone, but like they like focused on punishing God, and I believed, but I didn't respond to that approach that they were using. And I'll never forget, my mother said to me one day, because my mother was always a believer, and she said, Shannon, this isn't the right way, meaning like the Catholic Church. And so you know, like I remember like when the like very first few weeks into my recovery, and like I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try this praying thing. I mean, because I always did the praying thing when I was in active addiction, and I needed an extra $20 to get a bag, you know. And I just said, like, God, please remove the desire to want to run. Please remove the desire to like want to hide, because I don't want to do this anymore. Give me the strength to be able to stay and continue in this program. And so, you know, when I was in the Meridian House, I had to get my Get Well job. It was at Fantastic Sam's, you know, one of those hair salons. And I was doing like the front desk and things like that. And there was this woman that worked there, and she was like way overqualified to work there. She didn't need the money. She was just keeping busy, you know. And one night it was just her and I in the salon, and like I was sweeping and she was doing another woman's hair, and the woman said to her, you must be happy. You're so great at what you do. She was really good at doing hair. She was like, yeah, but this isn't my passion. And the woman goes, well, what's your passion? She said, well, I'm in the ministry. So like my ears were like, do, 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 do. And the lady left, and I looked, you know, at this woman. I goes, what do you mean you're in the ministry? What does that mean? Like I knew it meant something to do with God. So but I didn't know exactly what it meant. And so she told me, and I said, I want to tell you something. And she said, and I said, I'm a heroin addict. And she looked at me and she said, I love you. And by that time I was in a sober house. Like I wasn't making enough money at the salon. I was barely getting by. This woman took me in to live with her. And I lived with her for 6 months, and myself, her, and her daughter sat in her living room. And she said, like, the sinner's prayer with me where I got saved, which was October 5th, 2005. Now, people think getting saved and being born again is like this whole other religion, and it's not. It's a scripture in the Bible. It's a prayer that just kind of like you die to your flesh and your spirit's like reborn. And, you know, like God has done so much for me. Like church for like 13 years. I was a youth leader for 7 years. I've gone on missions trips. I remember like I got in big trouble at the Meridian House, and I was going to probably either get kicked out or get dropped down to evaluation status. And you know, I was out for the day with another resident, and I was escorting her actually to drug court. And I said I was leaving her there. This was in South Boston. And there was this woman and this man in the courtroom. Now, South Boston was predominantly Irish white Catholic, and there was this African-American couple in the courtroom, and they look at me and they said, Jesus loves you. And I'm like, yeah, I know, right? They waited out in the corridor for me, and they said, we saw this building and God let us in here today. And when we saw you, we knew why. Can we please pray for you? Wow. So they prayed for me, and I went back to the Meridian House that night, and I took my consequences, and I stayed. But it's true. Like, it's not about religion. It's about a relationship. The word religion turns people off. The religious turns people off. And it's like religion is a two-way street. Like I always think about it, like if my daughters never said thank you to me for all the things I do for them, or never came to me for advice when they're going through something, how would that make me feel? Mm-hmm. And I really believe that God feels the same way when I don't thank him for all that he's done for me, or like go to him like with my requests or like my burdens. So try to put her no matter what. And like, if you think of like NA is derivative from AA, right? So like AA was founded on Christian principles. The 12 steps are biblical. I wanted to go deeper and go to the root of all that and find, you know, I used to do a group called Celebrate Recovery, which was the steps, but like in a biblical sense. They would focus on hurts, habits, and hangups, and not like a specific drug like alcohol or drugs, but hurts, habits, and hangups. Yeah.
I like that. And I always say this quote, and the David Bowie quote, it's for religion is for those who don't want to go to hell, and spirituality is for those who have been there. You know, it's and that seems like what you're talking about is the spirituality side of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the battle's always spiritual, no matter what battle you're facing, you know, I mean, for me anyway. And, you know, I have to keep that up front. And the only way to like fight that battle for me is like through prayer. And like, I think that's the most powerful weapon I have.
Yeah. I'll say this, Shannon, is I've known you for a while, and there is nothing not real about you. So when you say something, especially to me, it holds a lot of weight.
Thank you.
With me, and especially as I was watching your walk with Jesus and some of the things that you were doing, what I really respected about you is because also what a lot of people don't know about you have a great sense of humor. You're not like this, like I'm
a ball buster.
Yeah, I love
that's how I show affection. I show affection by busting
I'm
balls.
the same way. I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that about you. And a lot of the stuff that you say has always held a lot of weight with me. I've always, looked up to you, counted you as a sister. You've always been there for me. I want to switch gears once again and just maybe be like a little silly goose time. What's your favorite worship song?
Oh, so there's this song, it's called Clean by Natalie Grant. There's a part where it says, washed in the blood of your sacrifice, your blood runs red and makes me white. And I love that. If you listen to the song, you'll cry. It's just so beautiful, but it's called Clean by Natalie Grant.
Yeah, awesome. What's a book that you would recommend to somebody right now?
A book I would recommend to somebody right now. Have you ever read Battlefield of the Mind by Joyce Meyer?
Yes, I have. Great book.
It's unbelievable because the mind is a battlefield. Yes.
Battlefield of the Mind.
Yep. I have it. It's in my bookshelf right there right now.
Yeah.
All right, you can bring it to me, Richie. Wednesday.
I could let you borrow it. All right, you ready?
So good.
What is something you believe, or what's something that you have believed in very firmly that has changed over the past 5 years?
5 years.
Something that I don't know why I said 5. Just what's a belief you had that?
So I used to believe, especially like my first 5, 6, 7 years in recovery, I used to believe that somebody who worked in the field that wasn't an addict didn't understand, but that belief has changed.
Good one.
That they didn't know. Yeah, that changed.
Good
so
one.
Quick thing before Richie asked another one of his tricky questions.
I love the questions.
So the Venmo again, so the thing was $10, Magic Wheel, like Vienna White, $10 for Angels, to continue scholarshiping people into sober living. The Venmo is at Recovery Solutions. And then if you need the 4 digits, because if you're not like a friend with someone, I don't know how Venmo is doing it late these days, but the digits are 0143. So again, if you can donate $10 to help someone get into sober living, at Recovery Solutions, and the picture is also on Greater Waltham Recovery Solutions Facebook page. There you go.
Awesome. Good job, Jess. Good job. Right. Are you ready for this, Shannon?
All right, let's get ready.
I've been saving these questions for her.
What is it?
Should we do a drum roll?
Yeah, do a drum roll.
I'm scared. All right, go ahead.
All
right, ready? What's an unusual habit or thing that you love to do? It has to be unusual though. Or strange or just weird.
Weird. Oh my gosh. What about cleaning out? Does cleaning out my ears count with Q-tips? Because like I'm obsessed with doing that like all day long.
Yeah, if you do it all day long, it definitely.
Yeah, I'm like always like, and it's to the point like, so you're supposed to have like a little, I know this is gross, like a little bit of wax in your ear like all the time. This supposed, so like my ears, the inside of my ears like sweat at night because it's trying to create more wax, but it makes me just want to clean them more. I know, I'm so crazy. And that,
I love it.
Do you have any other weird questions?
No, not weird. Maybe. I don't know, Jess. You never know. I may. It's still early. We still got a half hour.
Yeah. So you work now in the recovery field, right? So
I do. Yes.
You said you've been doing it for 13 years.
Yeah. So my first job in the recovery field, I worked at the Girls Cushing House, which is under the Gavin Foundation. It was when it first opened. So I worked there for about 2 years. And during that time, the Charlestown Coalition, which is the organization I work for currently, was being developed. So my former supervisor was developing the coalition. It used to be called CSAC, which I hated, Charlestown Substance Abuse Coalition. I mean, people used to confuse it with the methadone clinic. And it was in response to a lot of the fatal overdoses that were happening in the Charlestown community, because at one point, Charlestown had the highest fatal overdose rate in Massachusetts in 1 square mile.
Wow.
And so the woman that like developed the coalition, like she knew, okay, here's like this, she knew who I was. There's this young girl from Charlestown. She's been in recovery for a few years now. And like, there's not a lot of that happening. Like it wasn't a common thing that a 27, 28-year-old girl who shot heroin was in recovery for 3-4 years and being successful. So she kind of like pulled me in. And I started facilitating some like workshops in the local middle schools called like Life Skills and All Stars that focused on, a lot of education and prevention stuff, bullying, reputation, all kinds of things. Then she like hired me as an administrative assistant, but there was like a method to her madness that I didn't understand yet. And there was this grant that came out called the Mass Call 2 grant, which focused on opiate overdose prevention. And so the grant was awarded to different communities, and obviously each community had a different strategy. And so I was already, because I graduated the Meridian House, which is under North Suffolk Mental Health, and I also worked at the Gavin Foundation. Those are huge 2 resources that I had great relationships with. So I was using those resources to connect people to care, just, like 12-step work. And so the community wrote letters. We did a bunch of focus groups when we got this grant, and so wanted to know what the community wanted. So the first thing that the community wanted was like this one-stop shop, like a recovery support center, which is still my dream. This was like 10, 12 years ago, and it hasn't happened yet, but it will. And then the second strategy was kind of like a community outreach worker, somebody to kind of handhold and walk people through the different systems of care. And so people from the community wrote letters into my boss and asked if I was going to apply for the role, that they wanted to see me in that job. So then like I got that job, and like so much has changed over the years. I helped develop the Charlestown Drug Court with my old probation officer. We do trauma response. And so now for the past 2 years, I've been the program manager of addiction and recovery services, which oversees all of the addiction and recovery and treatment stuff within the coalition. So the Charlestown Coalition is a program of Mass General Hospital's Center for Community Health Improvement. So within Mass General, there's a center, and there's probably about like 125 staff. And we're all in different communities where MGH is represented, tackling the community health issues, and substance use is the primary in every one. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
How do you and Richie? How do you guys know each other?
Go ahead, Rich.
Well, just like all amazing things that the universe has done for me, like there's not one amazing human being that's in my life that isn't because of recovery or a higher power. Like I met, it was definitely a divine intervention. Like I met some mutual friends to go to a meeting, in Cambridge. Remember the Cambridge meeting on Friday?
Yeah,
night?
I
It was
loved
so
that
awesome.
because
Like
it was on Magazine Street.
Yeah.
Because I used to
Yeah.
be in the access program at the shelter I was just talking to you about. So we would go to that meeting. So like I was so comfortable there because I knew everybody. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No. Awesome. I know, because I get passionate too when I think about it. When you think of how like small beginnings and like just to kind of like just throw something out there, like because I get very I get so excited. I want to start breaking stuff for like other people, because this is what you have and what I have is for other people. Like I met you when I met you through mutual friends, and we all met at this at that Cambridge meeting. It was an NA meeting, and it was like one of the, like by far one of the best meetings. And I loved the Noonie. That was one of the best meetings too. But that meeting was like it was like a lot of personalities in that meeting. I got a lot of good recovery from that Cambridge meeting. And so a mutual friend of ours, I mean, we have a bunch of mutual friends, and I just feel like it was definitely a divine intervention by God. I met her that night, and we've really been friends ever since. Like Mike D, who was a good, God bless the dead. Like we would just, God was really after me and Shannon. That much I can't tell you. And I
believe that so wholeheartedly. Like I think about all the situations I was in, like being an 18, 19-year-old girl coming home from like the projects one end of the town, 4, 5, 6 in the morning, weighing 110 pounds, and nothing ever, like I was around the most shadiest people, and I saw things that I could never speak about, and nothing happened to me. Like, thank God. And I think about that all the time.
Yeah. I'll tell you, just to tell you, and this is to thank the God of my understanding, who I believe in. I believe in Jesus. I believe in other people's gods too. I believe in Muhammad. I believe in Buddha. I believe in whatever you think. I just happen to know for a fact that Jesus is real and his love is real. But just to prove that to you, when I met Shannon, I was living in a moldy ass basement, in my aunt's basement, and I could and I had nothing, and I had to have nothing, and God just knew I had to have nothing. And today it's a little bit different. Today I'm the director of operations at a treatment center. So let me just I don't say that to say look at me. I'm just saying very small beginnings. If you listen, God's a badass. If you're listening, because everything I have good in my life, I have because of the people that I met. And Shannon has a lot to do with that, even though she probably thinks it's on a small level, but she was such a powerful example to me that through mutual friends, I met Shannon. Through her inspiration, I met other people that encouraged me to get to meetings and find my higher power, which got me to the next day, and really wouldn't this long line of help and service and love that everybody's invited to. This love, we don't just have a friendship or a clique. Everybody's invited, to do this. I don't know what God might have in store for someone else, but I know you couldn't see it at that time, but you had to step out on some cards to look at where Shannon is now or look to where I am now. I would have never, Friday night at that Cambridge meeting, I would have never thought 14 years later I'd be the director of a treatment center. I was homeless. I wasn't even allowed on the first floor of my own house. I had to live in a basement.
It's crazy.
Richie, that makes me think of my story with you. Right?
Tell it. Yeah.
Okay. So 3 years ago, I was struggling, right? Like I wasn't doing heroin. I haven't done heroin in almost 8 years, but I was struggling, like drinking this. I'm working in Somerville. I looked up to go to a meeting. I went by myself to a Somerville meeting, right? And who's the speaker? It's Richie. So I don't know him, and I'm saying, you need to go downstairs. You need to go downstairs. It's fine. Yep, excellent. You have enough soap. Go wash your hands. And Richie's speaking, and I'm hearing this powerful message, and I'm there by myself. And it's a Monday night meeting at the Lion. I don't know what it is, but everyone seemed to know each other. So, and then I'm hearing Richie speaking in this powerful message, and I'm getting I'm getting a little bit of hope. And I ended up going okay, excellent. Go downstairs. And I got a little bit of hope, and I ended up going to a little bit more meetings. I ended up having to go to detox. And when I got out, I luckily still had my job, and I meet Richie at Banyan, and I'm going, wait a second, you're the same guy that one of those last meetings I went to when I really needed to hear a message. Like, it was so powerful. I remember,
Yeah.
I remember it because it was one of those moments that I was at my bottom. Like, I was so broken, mentally, physically, spiritually bankrupt. And I happened to, because that's like that, for, at least for me, to go to some random meeting by yourself when you're struggling.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what brought me there.
Right.
I don't know. And it happened to Richie, and now he's someone in my, it's just, I just think it's incredible.
It's crazy. I mean, like, I think about like, so when I was on probation down at Charlestown Court and that judge yelled at me and said, I better never see you here again.
Yeah.
You know, years later, so after I graduated the Meridian House, my probation officer calls me. I was in a sober house. He goes, Miss Lundeen, you better come in here. You might go away for 90 days. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm sober. You know how, like, when you think you're sober, you don't have to pay for like the consequences of your actions.
Yeah.
And he's like, you still owe all this money. You might have to go away. And I said, is Judge Sullivan is Judge Sullivan there? And that's the judge that yelled at me and said, like, I better never see you here again. He goes, when is Judge Sullivan not here? He's on his way in. Get in here now. So I get to the court. It wasn't Judge Sullivan on the bench. And the judge goes, do you have the money, Miss Lundeen? And my PO at the time goes, with all due respect, Your Honor, she graduated the Meridian House. She has 17 months in recovery. And I was clueless, still didn't know what was going on. The judge goes, come over here to me right now to the sidebar. I'm like, oh my God, what is he calling me to the sidebar? Like, what is going on? So I go over to the sidebar. He goes, it's just him and I can only hear him. He goes, you graduated the Meridian House? That's like one of the toughest programs. I said, yes, Your Honor. He goes, 17 months in recovery, huh? I said, yes, Your Honor. He pulled out his 25-year medallion, only showed it to me, and said, you're off probation, you owe no more money. Now, my PO set that up, but I was still clueless about how that happened. Now, years later, I developed the drug court with my former PO. And so I've learned so much being in the courtroom. Like, I think I'm a lawyer too. Like, I think I'm a lawyer. I think I'm a lawyer, like, with so much I've learned in the courtroom. And I looked at him one day, I goes, I was never in any real trouble. I goes, I was never in any real big trouble. He goes, I was holding a pair of deuces the whole time and it worked. And I'm like, all right. So yeah, I mean, God, he like orchestrates things that way. He puts people in your path for reasons, you know, that
look at all three of us right here right now. And then whoever, you know, hopefully, you know, I don't know, my great thing is like I owe a great debt because, you know, because of the people that came before me. And it's like, look at us three right here tonight. Like, I don't believe in mistakes. I don't believe God makes mistakes. I don't believe in coincidences. And look at us, you know, right here, right now tonight, you know.
So is there something called the Peace Park that you're involved with?
Oh yeah. Who told you to ask that?
You can't confirm or deny.
So yes. So, okay. So we do a number of different programming underneath the Charlestown Coalition. So like my role focuses on all of the substance use disorder, recovery, treatment stuff. Then we have a youth prevention program called Turn It Around, which has been in existence since 2012. My oldest daughter was an original member. Then we have like a family support, it's called Family Support Circle, where we have a clinician that works with families and connects them to supports and services. But we all come, there's 5 of us in the coalition, but we all come together to do different things, to work together. We work, it's hard to explain. It's just like we're one big happy family, but we all do different things, but we all come together to do a lot of the same things too, if that makes sense. So the Peace Park, so Turn It Around started originally as a social media campaign around the dangers of prescription drug misuse, and has evolved into a lot more since then, where we focus a lot on youth risk protective factors. So we make sure, so we have 40 kids, a very diverse group of kids. We meet every single Thursday. We're meeting virtually now, but we meet in person once a month because that's important for them. And so, you know, we help them with college applications, job applications, getting their permits and licenses, you know, all kinds of stuff. We make sure that they have adults in their life that they can lean on, you know, guiding them through things that they don't really have anybody to guide them through. So we got this mini grant to do a park in our community over. So it was like this kind of little park. It didn't have like swings or anything like that. It just had benches. This little park was already dedicated to somebody who was murdered 30 years ago. So the grant that we got the grant. and it was in a very affluent area of the town, because so Charlestown also has 3 housing developments. We also have the largest Boston housing development in all of New England, in Charlestown, in 1 square. Yes. So where we got the grant to do the Peace Park, it was at a very affluent area of the town. So we went to the family who the park's son was already dedicated to, and we got their blessing to do the park. Okay. So we had everybody do peace rocks. They painted the rocks in memory of their loved ones that they lost to overdose, community violence, cancer, what have you. So a lot of pain went into making those rocks for most people, you know, and we painted the benches all like fluorescent colors. We put plaques with peace quotes on them. And so there is a woman who lives in that area who's loaded and said she also applied for the same grant, but to do a different park, and she didn't get it. Okay. So she said she didn't like the colors that we were doing in the park, that it was tacky. But what it really was is she didn't like the colors of some of the kids that were in the park and where they were from. Okay. And so she, you know, we had an unveiling, and this woman, her behavior actually united the community even more. We had an unveiling. There was like 250 people there. A year later, the park was vandalized by her. She painted, so we had a chain link fence that we painted gold. She painted it black. And so in her mind, she thinks like she can like pay her way out of this. And so like we took her to court, because we wanted to show the kids, if it was one of our Turn It Around youth kids, they would have been in front of the judge a long time ago and would have had to pay, you know, some community service or restitution or whatever. And so it got dragged on for a while because she had a lawyer that was dragging it on, but she thought she was going to pay her way out of it. We tried to get her to do like a restorative justice circle, because we do a lot of those. But that would have been like required like accountability, and she refused to do that. So anywho, ended up, she got 6 months probation and community service, which is what we wanted. We didn't want her to just hand a check and say, here, I'm so like, we, you know, so yeah. So now the Peace Park, you know, so now, you know, I do a vigil every year during Recovery Month. So we just had our 12th annual. And so now it's at the Peace Park every year during September, Recovery Month. And we had, I mean, we did do it outside and we did it in person. There was probably like 150 people there. So, but like my daughters made rocks for their dad who overdosed and died. So like my 2 older daughters, their father died in 2016. His brother died in 2013 and his sister in 2003. So their Nana lost all 3 of her kids. So when she threw rocks away that people made, this woman. So for her, like my daughters were like very upset and wrote letters to the judge about how rotten she was. You know, but
that's horrible. It's horrible.
It united the community even more. This one person ended up bringing us all together.
One douchebag.
And so now we're working with the design firm who's doing some pro bono work. And so we did 4 different designs of what we want for the park, and we had the community vote on it. So it's going to be all done over, like beautiful, by the time the next vigil comes next September.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Question though, Shannon, just as you were speaking of all the great things that you do and that you're doing, like when it gets, I think a question, I mean, I have an idea, but I don't want to speculate. I think this would be good to share with other people. But when you, like it has, because you do so much in the community, you're such an advocate and you're a mom, you have kids, you have toddlers, you have a husband. So what do you do when it gets really chaotic and confusing in life? Like what are some of the things you do to refocus and recenter?
I have to be honest, like I thrive like under pressure. Like I do better when I have like when it's chaotic. I like thrive in that. I mean, but then there are times like where like I get like burnt out, or you know, and I have to like really refocus. Like I really have to go back to God, and like he's like my number one, and I have to like be okay with like sometimes like delegating things and not, because I can be controlling. I'm like want to control. I know that that's like, yeah, it's like a defect and an asset of and that, you know, like I just kind of have to take a breath, and I really do have to practice some like self-care. And like I was talking to you guys about earlier, like going to like boot camp and like working out. Like I really try to make sure that like I stay on top of that, because it's such a good release for me with all the stress that's going on, especially like when COVID hit. I was so worried about like the population I work with, because there was such an uptick in relapse and overdose.
Right.
And so I know that some people might not agree with this, but we did start meetings outside. So we started meetings that we call it the COVID Defiance Group, CDG. And so we started meetings outside down the Charleston High bleachers back in March. Started out with 10 people. Then we got up to 2 meetings a day, 12 p.m. and 7 p.m., 80 people per meeting. We've had over 40 people celebrate 1 year in recovery since March, which is unheard of for one AA group. Yeah. It can take decades for people to get to that 1 year mark. Okay. Absolutely. So like, I just wonder, and a lot of them just say like, you know, I'm just not about like the Zoom meetings. They need that like in-person, like social connection, that camaraderie, to see like the facial expressions, feel the emotions, the body language, all of that. And we've had over 40 people celebrate 1 year since March.
And to get through being clean and sober during this, because I've said it time and time and again, especially on here, that what's going on is our disease is like dream, right?
Yeah, we're fighting an epidemic within a pandemic. Like we're, you know, people, I mean, there's a lot of people in recovery that feel like the chances of them relapsing, overdosing, and dying is greater than getting COVID. And I'm not saying that that's fact for everybody, but I'm saying there's a lot of people that feel that way.
That them using one more time, you know, and you know, they need that connection.
We've had them. We've had fatal overdoses because people weren't meeting in person, and they were isolating, and then, you know, they got the best of them and they picked up, and now they're gone.
Right. Just one more time.
Yeah.
You know, and I know, I get it.
Well, I want to say one thing just before I forget. Number one, when you tell Mark I said hello.
Yes.
That, and then I just want to say this to you, because sometimes, you know, sometimes it's too late to tell someone you love them.
I love you.
Because we don't get to, we always see each other, and it's so much love. It's mad, crazy love. And you truly are my.
Well, I'm such a people person. Like, we're made for human connection, and like I love people like so much. Like, for instance, we brought our youth group down to Mass and Cass last Thursday and gave out care packages. And so like, I'm so comfortable in like that type of environment because I'm such a people person and I look for ways to connect with people. And so, you know, some of the youth, it was really good for them to see that. And they're like, weren't you scared? I'm like, no. I'm like, no, because that could have been me. And like, that doesn't mean they're a bad person. They're sick. And like, some of the youth are new, so they don't know my backstory yet. And so like, I've had it before when the youth come in and they didn't know my story, and then they heard it and they're like, what?
And they can't believe it.
You had a needle in your arm. You like, yeah. So, you know, but I know I'm such a people person, and I love for people to know that like I love them too.
Yep. So. And it's all up. We're soldiering so hard right now that we don't always get a chance to, like, I know I'm always like, I need to talk, and I do, it's true. It's like, I need to talk to you. I need to connect. But you know,
you do that. You're famous for that.
But you know, I love you. Sis.
I know. I do.
I got one question though, before maybe we're getting close to ending here.
Yeah.
If you could call back in time to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell 18-year-old Shannon?
Someone asked me this not that long ago. I would tell 18-year-old Shannon that she was worthy, that she was important, and that she was deserving of a good life. But at the same time, I don't think I would change anything, because it made me who I am today and really like shaped and strengthened my character. And I really believe like what was meant for my harm, God is using for my good and for his glory. And I always think about like my favorite scripture, and like, it's like really about my life. And it's Jeremiah 29:11. And it says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. Yeah. So, yeah.
Can I share something with you, like a spiritual awakening I had just the other day when my son was over here being a little wolf cub, about 10 years ago. No, maybe, I'm sorry, maybe a little less than 10, but this lady had walked up to me and at the place where I worship and said, hey, you're going to think this is weird, but somebody told me not to tell you to stop worrying so much. And she goes, do you have a son? I go, no, not that I know of. And she says, so she says, and obviously I'm being silly, but she says, wow, she says, because I'm visioning like, you know, someone's telling me to tell you to don't worry so much. And I just see a little boy just crawling all over your arms and up and down your arms. She's like, you don't have a stomach cure? I'm like, no. And she's like, well, at any rate, don't worry about anything, right? And I was sitting here the other day with my son as he's climbing all over my arms. And I thought about that lady, Shannon, and I was like, wow, that was so crazy. And you know, because it occurred to me, whatever about that day, there was something special about that day. I had relief. I felt like I could breathe. And then, you know, I got my son, you know, I got family, I got people that I love around me. And I would say this to my 18-year-old self. I would tell them, stop worrying so much. Don't take yourself so seriously. Laugh, breathe a little bit, laugh a little bit. It's okay. Everything's going to be all right. It already is all right, actually, but you know. So,
true.
So a couple more comments. Tara Shannon said, Richie, I love you, buddy. Thank you for all you do with the wolf symbol. Everyone knows Richie about it. Olga Anna Gomez said, amen. And that Richie, you asked some really good questions tonight.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Robert Gill said, Shannon, you plus God equals amazing.
That's good. That's so fire.
And then Jamie Lorino said, great meeting. And Linda Hanley Powell, one of the members of our team, said 40 people, amazing what connection can do.
Yeah.
So this has truly been incredible. Like
thank you guys so much for having me. I'm happy. I'm so happy to be here tonight. I'm happy it finally happened.
I can't wait to meet you in person. Like
soon.
It was just as soon as I'm thinking about that when you were talking about how you're a people person, how it was just me and you on before. And I'm like, what? Normally you don't know someone, you're sitting there, it's a little awkward. It was instant.
Yeah.
Like it was,
yep.
You heard me screaming at my family.
And I'm like, yes, I heard her screaming at her son.
You guys will literally, like, Shannon will literally could make friends with anybody. And Jess, everybody loves Jess.
Yeah,
but you guys are a lot the same.
She's yelling at her son. I'm like, oh, this is great. I love her already. Because I would be doing the same thing.
You heard my 6-year-old came and interrupted me about 18 times, but it's
usually it's my time. Or like when you're on the Zoom and you press mute and you're like, you know,
you have 2-year-olds and I haven't heard a peep. You must have like
no, my husband's downstairs with them.
Oh, yeah, got it.
Yeah.
See, mine, he was at the store when my little one kept interrupting.
He could never repay me.
Right.
You know what he said when we found out we were having twins? We went to the ultrasound. He sees, my husband's really like Jeopardy smart. It's annoying, but like he sees the ultrasound and he's like, is that what I think it is? And I thought he meant a penis. I'm like, you can't tell already. It's too soon. He goes, no, there's 2. I started crying. He goes, strong like bull, like he did all the work. I goes, I dropped 2 eggs and spread my legs. You didn't do nothing.
Oh my God, I love you. So again, anyone out there, if you want to donate, it's $10. The magic number was $10 at Recovery Solutions. And if you need the numbers, it's 0143. So
awesome.
Thank you again, Shannon.
Thank you guys. I love you, Rich. Jess, we'll meet soon.
That's soon.
All right. Bye, guys. Have a good night. Merry Christmas.
What does Mike say at the end? Leave the world a better place than you found it.
Then you found
That's right.
it.
All right.
Thank you, guys.